And it's also the thing that creates this protection around your nums. Num, 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 num. Maybe your yums are your nums. Hello, 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 and welcome to Well Shit. It really is that simple. I'm Claire.
And I'm Serena. On this podcast, we help you to understand about your 12 universal needs, why they are currently not being well met,
how to meet them in ways that work for you, and how to consistently do so in quick, easy, and simple ways that fit seamlessly into your life.
We'll also help you to understand how doing so will have a positive ripple effect in literally every area of your life.
If you like what you hear, sign up for more support with meeting your needs with your weekly Universal Needs notes at theuniversalneeds.com.
And enjoy the show.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, everyone.
So we didn't plan on recording this episode until we got to the end of the last episode and went, hold on a second. This feels a little wonky. I don't know why it just made me think of that really bad joke, like what do you call a three-legged donkey, a wonky in my head. Don't know why. There's a joke. What do you call a three-legged donkey? A wonky. And I don't know why my brain went there. Yep. Anyway, bad jokes and ADHD sidebars are to one side. We got to the end of the episode and the last episode that we recorded. And if you hadn't listened to it, I really recommend going back and listening to that one before you listen to this one, because there's a lot of important context in it. And I feel like we kind of did like a good solid like 55 minutes on like one side of the coin, and then I like powered through the last 10 to 15 minutes on the other side, and I got to the end, I'm like, I don't feel like a balanced episode. I feel like we need to talk about the other side of the coin a little bit more than we did in that episode. But obviously we also didn't want to have a 3-hour episode, so hence the reason we called it when we did. And we decided we would do another episode on this, really kind of going into the how to make your Yum UnYuckable and other related items. So yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about today. But you have a cute little story, which I thought was really sweet. It came off the back of us recording that, right?
Yes, and fits very well into, the fact that we are continuing said episode. Not sure if you knew, but Well Shit, it really is that simple, is taped in front of a live studio audience. He happens to be in the back there. So my husband usually listens to most of the episodes.
Serena means her husband, not just the
my
cat
husband
who has appeared on previous episodes.
He is not insignificant. Daz brings a certain energy and vibe to the set. Yes. Lazy and no, not lazy. Chilled and aloof would be the vibe he goes for. No, so Joe's in the back and usually listens, and he comes out and I said that we were done recording that episode, and he goes, "My favorite s'more isn't your favorite. Like my perfect s'more isn't your perfect s'more." And I'm like, "No," and he's like, but you've always given it like so much like praise and like admiration. Like you love my s'more. I'm like, I do, but it's not my perfect s'more. And so it was just kind of funny. Like after that, like he had because I yummed his yum, it was assumed that was my yum too.
Yum,
and it was just kind of,
yum, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was just kind of funny. I was like, it's interesting how that works, because like, yeah, if my husband hands me a s'more, there is no question in my mind that is going to be a good, solid, like, yeah, that's a s'more. And is it going to be my perfect one? And even if it was, everyone is not going to be the perfect one. Like, have you ever tried to recreate that perfection thing? And you're like, this doesn't taste the same way. Well, because the wind wasn't blowing from the east, and there was a sprinkle of ragweed in the air, like that. Who the hell knows? But like, I just thought it was really funny because I hadn't even considered the fact that like people could be misassuming my yums.
Right, absolutely. And what was really cute about it as well was like he seemed a little sad about the fact that like your your perfect s'more and his perfect s'more are not the same thing. It's okay, Joe. We're going to teach you how to make your Yum UnYuckable today. It's fine. It's okay. And it's like, or it doesn't even like, it won't matter if somebody else's yum is the same as your yum. It's going to be just as yummy to you. I promise. Like, that's what our aim today is. It's so funny because
the funny thing is he only gets to hear half the conversation, right? So he has no clue that you're talking to him right now. Gotta listen to this episode.
and he also has no idea that I flipped this entire thing on its head either. So and that's what we're going to be talking about a lot today. Yeah, the whole "don't yuck my yum" thing. It's not what you think it is, Joe. Like there's more to the story.
No, and it was a perfect segue into making your Yum UnYuckable.
Right, exactly. And it's interesting, like I think that that's also I think just before we get into just the like we actually do have we've got 3 points today rather than 2 points, which we had last time. Before we get into those today, it made me think of and this was something that we talked about briefly in the last episode, but I'm not sure if we really kind of dove into it. Like the fact that you know what your perfect s'more is and Joe knows what his perfect s'more is, tells me there's been enough experimentation around s'mores for you to actually determine what is or is not, what makes the perfect s'more for you and for him. And how few people actually go and explore that. Like how many people they have, like I was saying to a friend the other day, like we were talking about like when you go to a restaurant and you want to try something new, but you also want to make sure you have something you're going to love. And it's like that dichotomy between like, do I stick with what I know that I love, or do I try something new and maybe find a new love that's even more yummy than the previous one? Sidebar, which makes me think of like my parents used to go on vacation every year to France with one of their best friends. And they always used to go every day. They would go to patisserie, like the bakery stores over there. And they would have to get a patisserie, so a pastry. And every day they would get one and they would rank it out of 10. Like each one would be scored out of 10. But you could never have a 10 because there was always got the potential of an even better one in the future. So it would never score better than a 9 or a 9.5 because you had to always have the possibility of something beating it in the future, which I just thought was an amazing way of approaching this. But I think that's the thing. It's like that, like having that potential of something better. It's like, do I have what I've always known and what I know I'm going to love, or do I open myself up to the possibility of something new? And also, how often do we actually try the different variations of something to figure out what is our ultimate yum? Like, what is the, oh my God, I couldn't imagine it being, I mean, obviously it's only ever going to score a 9.5. There could be a 10 in the future, but like, what is going to get this as close as possible to perfection for me? And it reminds me of like that scene in Runaway Bride. There's an old movie where the
my head.
It's cozy and comfy and sparkly in here. I love it. There's if you've not seen the movie, it's this woman who she keeps going to the altar with different men and running away at the altar and leaving them at the altar. And a journalist comes in and is writing a story about her. And he asks each of the fiancés what were her favorite eggs. And each of them said the same thing. Oh, the same as me. And then each of them gave a different style of eggs, but she only, like her favorite eggs to each of them was the same one as them because she'd only ever had that same eggs. And then there's a scene where she actually goes to find out what her favorite eggs are. And there's like all of these different plates of all these different kinds of eggs on the table. And she's trying them all to see which actually is her yum when it comes to breakfast eggs. So, I mean, eggs can be eaten at any other time of day as well. But yeah, so it's like, how often do we actually explore what is our yum, and could our yum be any yummier? Like, are there things we could do to shift it and tweak it and change it that might make it even yummier than it was before?
It's like, it makes me think of the fairy burger.
Like
we have a burger that we love getting, and it's a burger, and we say burger, and it's a vegan burger, so it's whatever vegan meat patty. And I think I got the burger first, and I was like, oh my gosh, you have to try it, it's so amazing. And then Claire tried it, and then all of a sudden
what happened was the very first time I went there, they have 2 vegan options on their menu.
That's
one is a meat patty, and one is a garlic portobello mushroom kind of thing. And the first time I went with somebody who tried 2 different types of burgers. So I can't choose between them. I'm going to try them both. And I was like, well, if you're going to do that, I'm going to do that. So I got both of them. And as we've discussed on previous episodes, I love a variety of flavors, as long as they are complimentary, obviously. And so what I was doing is I was eating both of these burgers simultaneously, and I was having like a bite of one and then a bite of the other. And I was like, well, they're both good. But I'm like, but what if you put those together? And like the next time I went in there, I'm like, can I ask you if you would do something? Would you put the portobello mushroom in with the meat patty in one burger? And they were like, sure, we can do that. And oh my God, it was so good. And every time I've been in there, with the exception of a couple, like that, I mean, I go to this place a lot. It's my favorite place because it does an amazing vegan burger, like, and it's a block and a half from where I live. I go to this place a lot, like the everyone there knows us. But every time I go there, a lot of the time I will go there with friends who are not vegan, who will go, actually, that sounds really good. I think I'm going to try that. And it's become such a thing now where I'm like, I think I want to ask them to put the fairy burger on the menu, like as a separate menu item, because it's turned into such a thing. But again, like I don't think anybody else would have thought to have combined those two together. And I might not have done had I not been eating the two simultaneously and went, these flavors are good, but together, oh my God, they're great.
And it elevates it so much more. I mean, I think the vegan experience with you and just in general, like my vegan experience with you, like I've learned vegan can be yummy, vegan can be foodie, vegan doesn't have to taste like it's vegan. And Claire was saying in the last episode something along the lines of you were giving an example and you weren't telling somebody, oh, the garlic bread. You weren't telling them that they were eating garlic in the garlic bread. And there's been a lot of times where usually when I bake something vegan and I just kind of stand back and like just watch people eat them. And then at the end I'll be like, yeah, they were vegan. They're like, no. And I'm like, oh,
right.
Yes, they were. And just to see, and like people like discover a yum that they thought was yum. Because a lot of times, and I get it, I used to be a person, I'd hear vegan, I'm like, oh, nope. You have all these things in your head, but it doesn't. And
I always say, I'm a foodie first and a vegan second. Like I'm first and foremost, and will forever be a foodie. So if I'm eating something, it's got to taste good. Like, I mean, there's like, if I'm throwing together a quick snack at home because I have to sustain myself and that's all I have, there might be moments, but generally speaking, I like good food and it has to be good food. So that's how I operate within my veganness. It's like, yeah, it's got to be vegan, but it has to also taste good as well. And you're right. There's so many people who are like, like I remember when I took Serena up to get surgery of hers a while back. And there was a cinnamon roll place across the street from where she was having her surgery. So while I was waiting for her, I went and had this cinnamon roll. Oh my God, it was so good. And it was vegan, but it didn't say it was vegan. And they were like, we don't advertise the fact that it's vegan because it will put other people off having it. I'm like, that's so sad that people have associated. And like vegan food is a little bit like gluten-free food, and gluten-free can still be a little hit and miss depending on the circumstances. But I think that a lot of the time people will assume vegan equals not as yummy. Gluten-free equals not as yummy. Gluten-free and vegan, definitely not as yummy, rather than just trying it and seeing whether, I mean, my dad would be so proud. I feel like this, like, if I need to dedicate this episode to him, like, because like that's his catchphrase and always has been, just try it. And I think there's a lot of people, they come into it with those preconceived, if they know what it is, they're already like, they've got their taste buds aligned to not like it. If you're like a little bit like the whole, my sister not liking custard before she's 5, like she would be, I'm sure if she'd had custard before 5, she would have been like, this is disgusting, because she would have planned to not like it. She would have expected to not like it. And our brains don't like making liars of us. If we expect not to like something, it's true. Our brains will often organize around what we expect to believe, we expect to be true. And it's like, if we think we're not going to like something, we'll find something in it that we don't like. Whereas if we go in just going, do I like this? Without that preconceived notion, or like, just try it. Like Serena does her baking. I'm like, most people, you wouldn't know any difference between Serena's baking when it's vegan and when it's not vegan. You wouldn't. literally you can't tell the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, oh my God, these are amazing. And they're like, vegan, no, they're not. Like, well, that's because you have a preconceived notion that vegan food is gross. Like,
don't gaslight me. I cooked it.
I'm like, I know what went into it. I put the ingredients in myself. Like, but it's such a shame because I think there's a lot of yums that get missed out on in life because of this assumption that
absolutely,
because it is a certain thing. I mean, it's like the whole like accidentally vegan things. How many foods out there are accidentally vegan, i.e. they're not planned to be vegan. They just happen to be because they don't have any products in that are non-vegan.
like Oreos.
Right. I mean,
like, did you know all those times you were eating Oreos? Like,
technically, you're eating vegan food. Like, yeah, it's an interesting. It's a very and I said it's sad. And I think if more people could adopt the just try it or like, I'm curious. Like, if more people could approach things with curiosity around, would I like this? It could open up a whole new world. I mean, this is something we see with the needs stuff a lot. Like when clients are putting together their needs menus and we give them some of the examples of things that work for different things, the amount of times that I get okay, if you say so. I mean, Serena did it. Like when we went through this process and I'm like, hey, just try this. Like, and she's like, okay, whatever, if you say so. And I'm like, just give it a go. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, there's plenty of other options. And how many clients are like, oh my God, it worked. And I'm like, it's almost like if you just try it, you might discover new things that meet your needs.
Well, shit, it really is that simple.
Ta-da! So I think that's the more openness and the more curiosity we can bring, especially when somebody else has a yum. Because there's a reason it's a yum for them. Like if it's a yum for them, I mean, and don't get me wrong, we've all got different tastes. We've all got different preferences. I'm not saying that just because it's a yum from somebody else, it will automatically be a yum for you. But it definitely increases the chances. Like the whole salted caramel sauce thing. Like the fact that salted caramel sauce was on the menu means it was a yum for somebody. Somebody went, oh, this is pretty good. Not only this is pretty good, this is one of the top restaurants in London and we're putting it on our menu. There's a reason for that. And I immediately was like, ooh, salt and caramel there. Why would you do that? That sounds gross. Little did I know. I mean, like literally was about to be open to a whole new world. But it's like if somebody else it's a yum for somebody else, that like having that curiosity and that, well, let me see. Could this be something that's a yum for me? Like you can never have too many yums in life, honestly. I'm a firm believer. Like the more yums, the better. So we are going to be getting more into the yucks and the yums today. And there was a conversation that I think you had with somebody that where they I think were they responding to your yum, I think, was it?
No, so I was having a conversation with a friend and the whole yuck yum came up and they were in a different conversation and it came up and they were like, well, don't yuck my yum. And the response they received was, well, your yum offends me.
I have so many thoughts.
Okay. and then they were telling me this and I'm like, your yum offended them. And I was like, what was it regarding? And I can't even remember what it was regarding because it was something that is so not
innocuous,
something anybody needs to have an opinion on. Like it was like, I like the cherry red crayon, not the Bordeaux red crayon. Like it was something innocuous like that. Like there was, and in that situation, offended was lazy language on the part of the person who had said it. But when I said it obviously, Claire had her face, like I got thoughts.
The eyebrow went up.
Yeah, and I knew as I was saying it, like when I said it to her, I was like, I know as I'm saying this, there's going to be a lot around it. And it brought up a really good point because there are times when there is actual offense that like there is something legitimately wrong or harmful about somebody's yum.
Yes.
And then there are times where it is just like the fact, like, I used to eat ketchup sandwiches when I was younger. I don't know why. I loved it. My best friend Melissa used to think it was the most revolting thing ever. Now, did she ever say that I offended her with my sandwiches? No. And was that impression there? Absolutely.
Right.
And like, I'm not hurting anybody with my ketchup and bread. Like, it just was like, that wasn't
Not
a
unless
thing.
you're turning it into a projectile. No, I think we're fine as far as that's concerned.
And even like a wet piece of bread on the side of your face, like.
So
not that I condone throwing bread at people, but
I do think that in the context of this, and I think generally in the context of life, I really think I'm going to say something potentially controversial. I think I might have seen a video where somebody else said this. So this is, I don't believe this is original thought but by any extreme, but there's a needs context to this. I think we should do away with the word offended. I don't think we should use the word offended, because offended a lot of the time feels like it's subjective, like it's an opinion. And when we're talking about this, we're talking about objective harm. We're not talking about like a lot of the time we will say that offends me. What they mean is, I don't like that. That's not how I would do things. And a lot of the time it's that judgment and superiority that we were talking about last time. It's like, oh no, that offends me because like I don't think you should do it that way, kind of thing. And the truth of the matter is, like, if you have an opinion that somebody should be doing things in a different direction and you dislike the fact that they're not doing it that way, that's a you problem, not a them problem. And I think that if we're talking about harm, we should name harm. Like, we should name it as harm, not as offense. Because offense, it sounds like it is, as I said, it's subjective. It's something that is based on somebody's upbringing or perspectives of life or what have you. And the truth of the matter is, when we're talking about harm, that is not what we are talking about. And I think that's like a good response to that in that situation. Could have easily been like, am I harming anybody with this? Like, that could have been a good response. Like, am I harming you with this? And the truth of the matter is, at that point, it becomes obvious how ridiculous the sentiment is. But I think that the word offensive in this context, it becomes a opportunity for debate. And I think that because the debate is it offensive or is it not offensive? And if it's offensive to you, but not to me, then that's a subjective thing. That's a you problem, not a situational problem or an issue with what I'm doing. So I think that we should lose that term, because I don't think it's helpful. And I think it is a barrier that allows people to, it's a kind of veil. Like, it allows people to hide behind it and be like, oh no, well, I'm not offended by it. So I think that, like, that's a you problem kind of thing. And it's like, that's not what we're talking about. So when somebody says, is it offensive? Like, the immediate question out of my mind, and now we're going to get onto the harm piece in a minute, but my immediate question is like, is it, or are you just passing another form of judgment and using that language to make it sound like you're justified in your judgment? Because that's what it feels like to me. And that's what it sounds like to me, is that somebody is judging somebody else. It's basically a justification for being able to yuck somebody else's yum. It's like, I want to be able to yuck your yum, so I'm going to say it's offensive so that you are the one who seems at fault, as opposed to me for judging the thing that you are doing. And I think that ultimately, when it comes down to it, as long as we are not harming ourselves, our needs, somebody else, their needs, or the needs ecosystem, offensiveness in that context is just merely an opinion and a matter of judgment. And again, we'll get onto the making your yum UnYuckable a little bit later on. So, and like a really good response to this could be the one that we talked about in the previous episode, where we talked about the little kid who said, where someone came up and said something was stupid, and they're like, well, I don't think so. And like, you're like, your yum offends me. Or if you say your yum is offensive, well, I don't think so. There's some nuance around this, because if we are actually doing harm, that becomes a separate issue. But I think that that's also a good place for curiosity. Like, what about it is offensive to you? Like, the more you start to ask questions, and especially if somebody is young or immature, if you start to ask those questions, very quickly the entire thing will unravel in their hands, and they'll be like, And then you're probably going to get, because I think so. And I'm like, well, I don't think so. Okay. And then we can move on.
It'll take a little bit to get there, but
yes, eventually they're going to be left with a whole bunch of nothing, and then realize that they're left with a whole bunch of nothing, because it's a little bit like go on.
And oftentimes when you do that, people will come to their own realization, be like, oh, I guess it's not offensive. It's my opinion on it, but I don't like it. And that's valid. You don't have to like it, but that doesn't mean that it's like an offensive.
Well, and there is also, there's something we're going to come to a little bit later, which we talked about at the end of the last episode, which is I've got a trigger around this yum because of an experience that I've had previously. Again, valid. And again, depending on where we're at in our life, if we are an adult, our responsibility to go and do the healing around it so that we're not pushing that onto other people, blah, 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 blah. We'll get to that in a second. But I think that that's also like, it opens up a conversation around that to be like, I'm curious as like, what about this is offensive to you? And if somebody says, well, I had this experience with this, or that really triggers me, that's different to I'm triggered by that thing versus that thing is offensive. Two completely different things. And at that point, you can extend compassion. You can extend care to that person. Be like, okay, I understand that it's not that this is offensive, that you have some stuff around this. Okay, let's figure out a way of doing this so I can still enjoy my yum as long as I'm not hurting anybody. And it's also not going to trigger you. So there's a number of different things that come up around that. One thing that it is important to say is that if somebody is engaging with, if their yum engages with bigotry, if their yum is doing harm, it is important to be able to name that and have a conversation around that. And there's some obvious ones where, like, yeah, if somebody's doing something that is blatantly racist, for example, or blatantly homophobic or blatantly xenophobic or what have you, those are really obvious ones. There are some things that are maybe not as obvious, which may be things like the thing that comes to mind is if somebody has collected toys from a certain period of time and those toys are rooted in racist ideals or homophobic or whatever, like that is still harmful. It might be a yum to you, but it's you're engaging with something that is harmful to other people. And the fact that it's not offensive to you and it's not doing harm to you does not mean it is not harmful. It is about recognizing that it's sometimes times change, and just because something was okay at one point in our history doesn't mean to say it's okay now. And we need to be engaging with what is and is not okay in the present, not using it was okay in the past as a justification for that. Now, the problem a lot of people have, the reason. Go on.
I want to jump in there really quickly. Was it ever really okay?
No, it wasn't.
Like, and that's the thing. Like,
yes, socially acceptable given a bigoted history or problematic history, depending on the specific. So you're absolutely right. No, it was never okay. It was just not socially unacceptable. I think let's put it that way, based on the thing. And a lot of the reason that people get very defensive about these things and start to justify it and explain why it should be okay or why it is okay is because this is something that has brought them joy previously and they don't know any other way of doing it. Or they've invested so much into it, they don't want to let go of that investment of themselves, whether that investment is money, whether it's time, whether it's energy. And it can be sometimes like it's okay to have feelings about the fact that we're letting go of something that has meant a lot to us and still recognize that it is the right thing to do if we're going to be engaging with our needs in self-first ways and wanting to operate from the empowerment ecosystem and not from the harm dynamic or the drama triangle. The good thing is if you are able, which we all know everybody is, to get into the empowerment ecosystem and come from the creator approach, it is so easy to find other options for your yums. It is so easy. Like if this option is problematic, if this option is harmful, all you do is you drop into creator mode. What's my outcome? Finding a new yum, finding something that brings me joy. What are my options for doing that? And again, there are so many. Like if you go back and listen to the creator episode in the shapes, you can chunk up, you can chunk down. It might be that that finding something that brings me joy is too broad. Maybe you want to chunk down. Maybe it's like, oh, I collected these things. Maybe I want to find something new to collect. Or maybe it's I want to find a new hobby. Or maybe it's I want to find a new form of dancing. Or maybe it's I want to find a new form of exercise or sport, or a series of books to read or movies to watch. Whatever it is, like you can chunk up or chunk down to get it as specific as is helpful for you to be able to find your options. But it's really easy to find options once you start to go, how could I? What is another way that I could? What is another form of movie? There are a series of books that I won't read anymore because the people who wrote them are harmful and have engaged with bigotry. And it was so funny. I was like, I was in a coffee shop yesterday with a friend of mine, and there was a person behind us who had a book that had a dragon on the cover. And if you know anything about me, I love dragons. So I did a double take, and I was like trying to figure out what the book was. And I was like, oh, I'm really sorry. I'm like, I really love dragons, and I was curious as to what your book was. She's like, oh my god, have you read this? So I'm like, no, I haven't. It's on my list. She's like, oh my god, it's so good. So I'm like, okay, it's just popped up at the top of my list. Like, there's lots of ways of finding new things, and especially with the internet, especially with YouTube and TikTok and Facebook and Instagram, there's so many ways of finding new options of things. Like, you can put it out there as a question to your circle. Like, I'm trying to find a new X, I'm trying to find a new Y, I'm trying to find a new Z. Has anyone got any ideas? I guarantee you, everyone loves to give an opinion. Like, I guarantee you that there will be no shortage of options that are offered if you ask the questions. And so by going into creator mode and going into empowerment ecosystem, you can find other options for your yums that do not harm other people.
I find a lot of times when there's a connection, the yum is a connection to somebody, a connection to like a family member, an area, specific like moment in time. Our focus tends to narrow, and it's like, it's this thing, and this is the connection with that person, with that place, with that period of time. And it can only be that. And without that, like that single connection, like it's all... It all kind of goes to hell in people's brains sometimes. Right. And it's like, you're telling me that you only have like, I'm trying to not get super specific here, and it's really, really hard. Like, I'm really like, I don't want to take
no
this
other
to
food you
places.
like, because this is the one that are like great Auntie Agnes liked, and therefore it's the only thing you could possibly like. Like,
right, and like that's my only connection to great Auntie Agnes. Like, you're telling me there's not a single other thing that you could foster that could create a connection. Like,
right.
And I think we get so focused on, and I've done it in my own life and been like, no, this is the connection I have to that place. So that makes this yum all right. And then looking back being like, no, it didn't, it didn't make it right. And they're like, and we're going to get into this in another episode. It's like, it's kind of at the top of our list now. Who the hell knows when we stop recording what pops in between now and then. But like, how we look at options in life, and how it's like option A or option B. And it's like, there's a whole fucking alphabet. And then there's alphabets in different languages out there. Like, there are other letters to explore. And I find that and especially in traveling, like, people get connected to an area and symbolism of a certain area. And they're like, well, this means, you know, this about this area. And I'm like, that means something totally different, and it's super harmful. So like, can we like rally around something different, please? Like, there's I can come up with 40 things off the top of my head, and I'm not from the area. Why don't you give it a shot and see what else we can like
it's funny. There was something that popped into my head and has now popped out, and I don't think it's coming back because the conversation's moved on so much. I'm like, something about that. Nope. No idea what it is. If it comes back, I will be sure to share it. But yeah, I think that's the thing, is that we want to have connections to people or to places or to times, and that's valid. Like, it's okay to want those, and it's okay to grieve the loss of the ones that we have, and it's okay to say that there's other ways. There's other ways of finding, I mean, there's so many options of things that can bring you joy. There's so many things that could bring a connection to a place. And it's like, if you, a place or a person or a whatever it is, it's like, you could do some more like digging. Like there's so many things that you might not know about said person. Like I remember several months ago, I was having lunch with my mum and dad, and I was asking questions about my family, and I found out a whole bunch of things I had no clue about. And these people in my head were kind of one-dimensional because I didn't know much about them. And the more maybe you don't have somebody to ask, but maybe you know what region they were from, and therefore you can find out more about that region and the food and the kind of cultural differences in that particular area. There's lots of ways of doing this. I think the key thing is that we get so attached to these things. We get so attached to our things and go, oh, I remember what it was. I remember it came back. It's a little bit like when it comes to needs. And I think that's what we need to do is remember that all of these things.
You forgot the needs connection.
Specific needs connection. There is a difference between, this is what a lot happens with a lot of people, is they get so stuck on their preference for how they want to get the need met that they forget the need that is underneath it. All of these things that we're finding, all the things we're talking about, they're all ways of meeting needs. So if we get underneath it to figure out what is the need I'm trying to meet, rather than getting so stuck on the preference that we're like, well, if I can't do it this way, that need's just not going to get met. That's not how needs work. If you go, okay, what is it that I'm looking for? Because I mean, when you think about like Great Auntie Agnes or whatever it is it love and connection that you want to feel? So how do I drop underneath that and go, how do I meet my love and connection need? And I would love it to be with her if I can. Maybe there's somebody else I could connect with, which I can create another Yum, which is about something completely different, which is still going to meet that love and connection need. Maybe it's a sense of security because it's going back to my childhood or to where I'm from, where my roots are from. And therefore it's that security need that I'm looking to meet. And so actually it's more about the place and more about the culture of the place than it is about this specific person. That person might have been my link to that place, but actually there's a different way. So once I think, and so often this happens where people get so stuck on this preference for like, I want to meet this need this way, but they don't realize that's what it is. And what they end up saying is, I have to meet this need this way. Like, as in, I need to do this to meet this need. And it's like, oh, honey, that's not how needs work. Instead, what need are you trying to meet? And then once you get down to the need level, that point you can get into creator mode. And then it opens up options way more than if you just go, well, I'm wanting to feel good in a way that's linked to Great Auntie Agnes, and that's linked to where I'm from, and that's linked to food, and that's because the second you compound it and it's like all these different things have to be true at the same time, that's when it becomes really tough. When we start to figure out, well, what need is underneath all of those things? Well, actually, that's about my roots. That's about my security. That's about feeling a sense of belonging, which is actually about the first three needs. So this is about foundation, function, security, and love. And actually, if I can find something that's going to give me a little ding, ding, ding around all of those needs, that's what's going to actually have me feel good. And that's going to create the Yum that's going to really, really feel like it's hitting the spot for me.
And I think we did an episode on preference.
I think so as well.
So we're going to throw that in the show notes. And if not, we'll put it on the to record list because it's definitely an important one.
Yeah. And we don't have much on the to record list. So, I mean, we could use as many episodes as possible to add to that list.
We're going to run out of content real soon.
Like, I mean, it's got to be, I mean, if we're not careful, we've only got another, 12, 15 years of content listed out so far. So, I mean, we're getting to the end of the, no, we're not. There's plenty to come. Don't you worry. So, one of the other things that we talked about in the last episode is looking at this kind of connection between trauma and yums, and trauma and yucks, like it works either way, is that sometimes what can end up happening is that the thing that we are doing is not causing harm per se. However, because somebody has had an experience themselves in their past with something that is connected to that they have a trigger around it, that they feel upset or uncomfortable, or that they feel anxious or they feel stressed whenever that thing comes up, not because of the thing, but because of what the thing is associated to within them. So it's like, okay, I'm going to go with a ridiculous example here. Like, I have this image in my head of like a homicidal sandwich, like a sandwich that's trying to eat people. And I think part of the reason I want to go ridiculous on this is because I want it to be something that is ridiculous, so people don't get stuck on the thing that I'm talking about. So if they had were told a story as a kid about like this, like people eating sandwich, all of a sudden they have this trigger around sandwiches. Now, nobody's going to think sandwiches would do harm to anybody. I mean, unless it's got ingredients that they're allergic to. Food allergy person here, like realizing what she's saying. But generally speaking, you're not going to have to worry about, is my yum being this incredible sandwich going to harm somebody else? That's not going to be a thought that's automatically going to come to mind. But if somebody has had this, like, I don't know, recurring nightmare as a kid that there are like people eating sandwiches, and so they're terrified of sandwiches, like that is one of those things where that thing has caused a trauma for them. Like that, it's caused this. And remembering, like, go back and listen to our trauma episodes. We'll put the links in the show notes. Trauma is anything that negatively impacts more or more. Yes, one or more of our universal needs. And there are 6 different types of trauma, depending on whether it's a momentary thing, whether it's sustained over a period of time, et cetera, et cetera. So, if somebody's needs, so even if like it has caused them to be afraid because they've had a recurring nightmare around something, that is still going to be a trauma for them. It doesn't necessarily like it's not necessarily, they don't necessarily need to have come across a people eating sandwich in real life, but it could be something as simple as a recurring nightmare that has created this association for them, that when they think about this thing, it causes them anxiety, it causes them to be triggered in some way. Now, as I said, it's not your responsibility to think of like, well, anyone could have had a nightmare about anything. Like, I mean, someone could have had a nightmare about narwhals. Who knows? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so Nunu our narwhal like did a little guest appearance there. If you're listening on the audio and you're not watching on the video, that wouldn't have made a whole lot of sense if you didn't see what was happening on screen. I mean, it may not have made a lot of sense if you did see what was happening on screen, but that's beyond my scope.
That's beside the point.
Right. So what in this situation, engaging with the thing that somebody is triggered around, is that going to negatively impact their needs? Well, yes and no. Are you negatively impacting their needs? Not really. But if they are negatively impacted by the presence of something, it's like, well, where does the responsibility lie? Because obviously it's not your responsibility to never mention sandwiches again in case somebody's had a nightmare about a people eating sandwich. Like, that's not something that would be logical or natural to assume. However, if somebody comes to you and says, look, I totally get that you love sandwiches. I have this thing around sandwiches. It might sound silly. It's this thing from a long time ago, but this really triggers me. And and in that situation, if it's a trigger that somebody has because of an experience that they've gone through, it is their responsibility to do their healing around that. It's not okay for them to just go, well, everyone in life has to just completely adapt to my traumas and triggers and never do. Now, important to say, if those traumas and triggers are actual harm that is being done, yes, everybody has a responsibility to avoid those. Let me just caveat, because there's so much nuance around this. But it's not our responsibility it's not reasonable to expect that something that is not something that tends to do harm, it's just something we have a particular trigger around, just to expect everyone to just adapt around our triggers at all times. And this is kind of this dual responsibility piece, because yes, it's their responsibility to do some work around this. And if we are mindful of the fact that we are part of the community, i.e. if we are in the empowerment ecosystem and we discover that somebody has gone through some trauma in their life that has created an association with something that triggers them, as a part of that community care and that community mindfulness, why wouldn't you want to show care around that? Why wouldn't you want to? Like, if I had somebody, like, great example is I have a terrible nut allergy. If my nut allergy was so bad that somebody else eating nuts around me could trigger me, yes, that would be actual harm. So maybe it's not the best example. But the people around me are going to want to not do something, even if they love nuts, even if it's their favorite thing to eat. They're not going to want to do it around me because they're not going to want to negatively impact me. And as I said, slightly different because that's an actual harm. And so there's probably a better example I could come up with, given it a little bit more time, but my brain's not coming up with it right now. But I think that this is the thing, is like where we want to be mindful of showing care for the people around us. And part of the challenge is in our culture, because a lot of people have unmet personal power needs. Some people can take these triggers and use them to try to get their personal power need met, where it's like, oh, I'm going to do the thing that I know triggers somebody else, or I'm going to bring up the thing that I know triggers somebody else, because that's going to create an impact to them, and I'm the one that's done it. It makes somebody feel powerful in that moment. But when you do that, it negatively impacts them. It actually negatively impacts their needs, which actually negatively impacts your needs. There's no real net benefit to that. Like, it might feel in the moment like you're getting something out of it, but you're really not. It's actually harming you as much as it is anybody else in that moment. You just aren't aware of it.
I find a lot of times that comes up in like almost like a jokey way. Like, I have a friend who has an aversion to a certain kind of food, and don't quite know the backstory on it, but it always tends to come up. Like, it's a known thing that they don't like this specific kind of food. And initially it was like, oh, look, it has that in it. And, you know, like, you're trying to, like, you know, like, almost like joking, be like, I know you hate this thing, but look I made a dish that has it in it, and I'm going to present it to you and let you know I made a dish that you can't eat, and that potentially is triggering. Like, I see this makes you uncomfortable, so I'm going to almost lean into that uncomfortability. And I see that play out quite a bit. And people are, oh, I'm just joking around. Oh, I'm just messing with them. They don't care.
Perfect moment for the phrase. I'm curious, like, can you explain to me how that's funny? Because the second you ask someone to explain that, they realize it isn't. It's actually just cruel, and it's mean. And they're doing something to negatively, they're trying to get a laugh at somebody else's expense. It's punching down. We've talked about this before.
And when we're talking about somebody else's trauma or triggers, like, it's not for us to dive into other people's stuff and figure out why and go into, I mean, like, I have a hard enough time dealing with my own traumas and triggers. I don't need anybody else's to try and figure out.
Yeah.
And like,
and it's also not for us to determine the validity of somebody else's, because that's the other thing, is that a lot of people will be like, oh, well, that's stupid, or that's silly. You shouldn't. Yes, like, you shouldn't. And it's like, no, it's not for you to say. Yes, is it still their responsibility to go and figure out, so that other people don't have to tiptoe around their triggers? And at the same time, like, leaning into that, and that like, doing something to make somebody else feel uncomfortable, it's not funny. It's not beneficial to you and your needs, even though a lot of us have learned, because we've seen a lot of like punching down humor as we've been growing up, and we've seen bullying just glorified in the sense of like, oh, like Mean Girls kind of thing, where it's like it's socially acceptable to do in some way, and it's like, it's gross. Like, we're adults. Like, come on. Like, what, like, if you need to somebody else to feel crappy for you to feel good about yourself, man, do you need to sort out your needs?
Well, that, and like all I can think of is like, you don't know. Like, you don't know what's going on. Like, I'd have this scenario in my head where somebody has like spilled milk. Like, they get really upset over spilled milk. They don't really say why they get upset over spilled milk, but every time they're around, if I was just to spill a little milk, it'd be like, oh, there's milk on the ground. Like, you don't know what that's bringing up for them, or what that relates
what it's
to,
associated with.
And it just, like, there's such a disregard oftentimes. And, you know, like, we don't think it's like, it's something so, well, don't cry over spilled milk. Well, there is a reason why there were tears over that spilled milk, and it's not for me to judge on that, and it is certainly not for me to antagonize like that. It's just pointless. And I have been there. I've been on both sides of it, and it's shitty.
And I think that's the other thing, is it's more of that judgment and superiority thing, where it's like, I have the right to determine whether this is valid or not. And because I determine that it's not valid, and where we're talking about superiority, it's like, well, my opinion matters more than yours does. Like, I get to determine that this is something that's stupid, and therefore that you shouldn't be behaving that way around. So I have the right to do it because it's not actually causing harm. As Serena says, you've no idea what that relates back to. You've no idea what childhood memories or what trauma somebody has been through. And it's not for you to determine. And why would you want to? The reason you would want to is because your needs are unmet and you're trying to get your needs met at the cost of somebody else, or by feeling superior to somebody else, or feeling that you have the right to determine. All of those things, they're shitty strategies for meeting your needs. And the very second you start to engage with that, that's your like notification, your nudge to be like, oh shit, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Because there's other ways of doing it. Like there's other ways of meeting your needs in that moment, to be like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I really appreciate you letting me know that. Thank you for telling me. I really like, that's another way of you indicating your value need and engaging with your personal power in a way which is mutually beneficial with other people around you, not at the cost of others. And we're so indoctrinated into doing something at the cost of other people, and that being the only way we can benefit in our society. That's something we really have. That's a habit and a pattern that we need to break, because it harms us, it harms other people, and it doesn't do any good to anyone. And like, it destroys the potential for community. And as we know, community is central and important to the empowerment ecosystem. When we have those moments of like, and again, you can be curious around it. I'm like, hey, I'm really curious. Like, would you like to share with me like what this is about? And it's okay if they don't want to. Like, it's okay. Like, actually, no, I'm not really comfortable sharing about that. No worries. I just want you to know I'm aware of it. And like, if there's like, I'm going to do my best to make sure that I'm not doing things that might trigger that for you. Because the more you then create that trust and safety, the more your like the security needs are going to be met across the board, the closer relationships are going to become, the more they're likely to trust you to share at the point at which they feel able and that what they want to do so.
I want to give a reminder that there's no like, what am I trying to say?
I don't know. I can't help yet.
Yeah. I'm just saying, because I've been on both sides of that, unfortunately, the the triggers and traumas aspect of, having your yum yucked or yucking somebody else's yum. And there have been many times, especially in my relationship with Claire, where I've been on the side of having my yum yucked, or like somebody doing something that they think is fine, and they're like, no, I'm enjoying it, but it's obviously bothering me. And when I bring it up, it's like, oh, like Claire said, it brings you together to a closer conversation. It's like, I didn't even realize that. I'm sorry. Like, for me, I hadn't even thought of the scope of how this could be affecting you. And thank you for acknowledging that, and at least trying to not trigger or traumatize me. And on the other side of it, me having to be like, kind of those not identifying as an asshole, but having those I'm an asshole moment, where it's like, I didn't even think there was something bigger than this. And like, there's a lot of hesitation to own it, and to hold yourself accountable, and to accept accountability from others, and being like, oh, like somebody did recognize that this is harmful. Maybe they will change, and not just being like, no, fuck you, we're done.
And that builds trust. And I think a lot of people are very reticent to have uncomfortable conversations because they're afraid that that's going to cause the friendship to disintegrate. And actually, it's the thing that's most likely to bring it closer together. Now, not everybody can handle those conversations, and I'm sure we'll get into. I had an interesting conversation myself with somebody recently, where I'm sure we'll get into it at another time in another episode, because that's definitely an episode that needs to be recorded, where it wasn't a bad reaction to it, but it also wasn't the best reaction to it. The thing that enabled me to be okay with that is I'm solid within myself. And it's like, if I know I'm going to have uncomfortable conversations with people, and those people who are meant to be a part of my life are going to lean in, and it's going to bring us closer. And those people who aren't meant to be as close will lean out or avoid it or duck or dodge. And it's like, okay, cool. I know where you belong in my, I know where you, and you'll naturally fall into that place in the relationship orbits. We'll put the relationship orbits link in the show notes for this as well, so you can go back and listen to that. Anything else before we move on to the last point? Okay, so how do you make your yum unyuckable? So this is I think the most important thing with all of this is that it's like anything in life. The reason that our yum is yuckable is because either our needs are unmet, or because we are dependent on other people to meet our needs. So how they behave will determine whether our needs are met or not. And so the first and most important thing, and I mean, I sound like a broken record and everyone's going to be sick of hearing me say it, take care of and support your own needs first and foremost. And I mean needs plural, because obviously these things meet our needs. Like the reason it brings us joy is joy comes when our needs are being met, when one or more of our needs is being met. So it's going to give the fact that we're doing these things is meeting our needs. And we got to make sure that we're taking care of the spectrum of our needs, not just the one. So yeah, maybe doing a certain form of dance is bringing me it's making me feel emotions that I don't normally feel at other times. So that's a good thing, right? Great. However, if I have not taken good care of my value need, i.e. I don't value my opinion, then somebody else coming along and voicing an opposing opinion about said dance is likely to affect the amount of joy I'm getting from it, because my value in their opinion is higher than my value in my own opinion, which means that their negatively talking about this thing is going to be more impactful to me than me positively talking about it to myself. And that's the thing, is so it's not just about recognizing and taking care of the needs that these yums are meeting. It's about looking at the full spectrum of needs. It's about making sure my security need is well met, so that if this person decides they don't like me because I have this yum, I mean, I have a lot of I would have a lot to say about that as well. I'd be like, okay, jog on. If our friendship is that vulnerable that me liking this particular form of dance is going to break it, I wish you well. Bye-bye. But if my security need isn't well met, and I'm afraid that somebody judging the thing that I like is going to cause them to judge me, it's going to cause them to not like me, to feel more distant from me, my security need is up with something that is completely unrelated. It's actually my emotional experience expression need that is being met by this thing, but my security need is affecting it. My love need is meeting it, where if I don't love myself and take and value my opinion and do the things that I love for myself because I'm afraid of what other people are going to think of me, because I'm prioritizing my relationship with others over my relationship with myself, my love need is going to be affecting it. So these are these things like one of the things that is I've always said about meeting your own needs is that when you meeting your own needs is the single most empowering thing that you can do. Because once your needs are well met, it neutralizes other people's ability to affect you, other people's ability to manipulate you, you to compromise yourself to try and make other people happy, or to make other people like you, or whatever it is. It is so empowering. And it's also the thing that creates this protection around your nums. Maybe your yums are your nums. So
when you get really excited by them, you drop the Y, and it's just num num num.
I mean, could be. So I think but it creates this beautiful like protective barrier around your yums, because it doesn't matter if somebody else doesn't like them, like their opinion's going to bounce right off the outside of it. And what we want to do is, like, by doing this, what I don't think we realize necessarily is by making your yums unyuckable, you actually meet your personal power need, like in a huge way, because you take back the power to determine your joy, and you take it away from the people like a lot of the time we've given away the power with respect to our joy to others around us. And it's like, well, the power for me to feel joy is dependent on if you approve of what I'm doing, or if you think that this is also yummy, or if you think that I should be doing this, or if you think that this is like respectable, or if you think this is appropriate. All of those things, if we put them in other people's hands, the power for our joy is in their hands. That is one of the most disempowering places for us to be. And one of the most empowering places to be is to be like, I will hear your opinions. Like, I'm not going to dismiss your opinion. I'm just going to say, when it comes to things that are bringing me joy, as long as I'm not negatively impacting myself or anybody else, nobody else's opinion really matters. It really doesn't.
And when you create this, I liked that analogy you had of the barrier around it, like
bubble. I feel like it's a bubble, protective bubble.
Yeah, like a protective bubble, and your personal power is way up here, and your needs are consistently met when you've not unyucked your yum. How did you
made
say
your yum UnYuckable?
That, like, you're actually consistently meeting your needs in an area that if your yum is yuckable, you are allowing, unconsciously usually, a situation to continually impact you as well. Right. So I'm not sure if that completely makes sense. I'm going to try and make it make sense. So if somebody says, like, that outfit, that outfit, and you're feeling that out, and that's like your outfit, and you're like, oh, my outfit. And then you're like, well, they don't like my outfit. Do they not like me? What do they think?
And how many other people don't like my outfit? And
exactly. Well, and then it's anytime you put on that outfit, you might be like, oh, this was the outfit that so-and-so said this about. Oh, other people probably think that. So then like it's a continuous yucking of your yum, and it was never their outfit to like, they're not wearing it. You're not trying to dress them, like, just, and I think that's something that, I never even consider is the knock-on effect of that. When we're doing that, it plants these little seeds of doubt within our own needs tree that, like, they can pop up out of nowhere, and you can maybe not even, it might not even resonate right away, but all of a sudden, like 5 years down the road, you're like, oh, this person said this thing once upon a time to me, and it's been here ever since, sprouting.
Or maybe like you don't wear that outfit anymore, and you look at it like, why is that? Like, I never wear that anymore. Why is that? And then you realize, oh, it's because somebody else passed comment on it. Like with me, I was told as a kid that I couldn't whistle, and I became really self-conscious about it. And I love whistling. Like, it's because I'm a musical person, and I can't always sing as I want to, but sometimes I like whistle. And that was one of those things where it's like, oh, this is something that, because I was continually told I couldn't whistle, I stopped doing it. And now like people know, it's like, if I whistle around you, it's because I feel connected to you and safe around you. And I'm actually starting to do it more and more now. And now I'm like, it's funny. I was having this conversation with a friend. There's something that happens, I think, after the age of 40. And I really hope that we can start to, through helping people to meet their needs, bring that age down, where like, you become part of the zero fucks crew, where it's like, I don't care if you don't rate me anymore. I don't care if you don't like what I'm wearing. I don't care if you don't like what I'm doing, as long as I'm not hurting myself or anybody else or the needs ecosystem. Obviously, as long as I'm still doing it in self-first ways. And I think that part of that is, for me, certainly, part of that has become because my needs are well met now. Like my needs are far better met than they've ever been in the history of my life. And and also I value myself and my opinion more than I ever did. I value my perspective on things. And honestly, like if someone's going to speak to you in such a way that would take anything away from your joy, like how much value do you want to put on a person like that in your world? And it may be that they didn't realize. And like Serena and I have had conversations where I'm like, hey, would you mind just like avoiding saying this or saying that, like in that quite that way? Because that's like, I've got some triggers around that and it would really help me. So it may be something that they didn't realize that they were doing or didn't realize the impact it was having on you. But if you're around people, and I see a lot of people these days, like still like punching down or like making jokes at other people's expense. And it's like, how important should that person be in your world? I mean, should that person be in your world is another question. That's another conversation for another podcast. But I think that if somebody is operating in a way where they are doing things where you need to have your protective bubble up around your yums, then either there's a conversation that needs to take place there where they maybe don't realize they're doing it, or they don't realize that you don't appreciate that way of doing things. Or actually it's just like, maybe a relationship orbit, you're going to slip a little bit further away from me. Maybe you're not somebody who actually is trusted to be a part of my close orbits. And so by making your yums unyuckable, one of the things that is great about it is not only do your yums become really resilient, and it's like, oh, I don't care if you like this outfit. I don't care. I mean, I'm sure there are lots of people who give a lot of judgment and give a lot of eye rolling when they see Serena and I dressed up as fairies, blowing bubbles everywhere, like covered in glitter, and like zero fucks. I couldn't, I mean, I've like negative fucks to give about that, because it's like, this brings joy to me, but I know we bring joy to other people when we're doing it. So if you have an issue with it, that's a you problem, not a me problem. And I'm not negatively impacting you. And if I am, and you need me to know about it, then if there is a way that I'm not aware that this is negatively impacting you, by all means, come and talk to me about it. We'll look at it from a needs point of view and determine whether or not that is a you problem rather than an actual problem with what I'm doing. But I think that so often those situations, like there was a point in my life where I would not wear half the stuff that I wear these days and do half the stuff that I do these days. And it's so sad because there's so much joy that I would be missing out on by doing that, by avoiding those things. And so it's so important for you to take your power back around your joy, and for your yums to be resilient and unyuckable, so that if somebody says something, you can, with all the confidence of that little kid who said to the playground bully, well, I don't think so, because that's what matters most in this. And be able to say that, actually, no, I don't think so. Not, you're wrong, I don't think so. So that you can continue to enjoy your yums and other people can continue to enjoy their yums. And when you start supporting other people's yums, even the ones that aren't yums to you, like, I mean, and sometimes it's important to have that conversation. Serena said, like, there's sometimes assumptions that happen around, oh, if you're supporting my yum, that must mean it's a yum for you too. Not necessarily. Like, letting them know it's not like 100% my thing, but I'm here 100% for you. Like, I like if this is the thing that's going to make you happy, I'm here with you. How do we do this? Like, what do you want? How do I support you in this? The more you do that, the more that will ripple out. The more people will then support your yums, and the more other people are going to support others. So this is an amazing opportunity to have this like yummy ripple go through our local communities, people that are friends and family. The more that we support each other's yums, the more you will start to notice everybody supporting everybody's yums just that little bit more. And that's the way we can create this this kind of community care that I don't think people realize is missing at the moment, and I think would be really beautiful to bring back. I say bring back. I don't know if it's yummy in there, but if not, it does. It sounds delicious. I definitely sound delectable. Nom 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 nom. Yeah. Anything you want to add before we finish up for today?
I think I'm good. Feels a little bit more balanced this time.
Yes, we definitely feel like we've done justice to both sides of the coin. And who knew we would get 2 yummy episodes out of this this topic. I'm sure there will be more in the future. We'll be back next week with another episode. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Between now and next week, remember to stay safe, take care of yourself, and continue to meet your own needs. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye, friends.
That's it for today.
If you like what you heard
and would like to see some of Serena's awesome facial expressions,
check out the video podcast on YouTube.
And remember, making your yums unyuckable is one of the most empowering things you can do, because it means that you take back the power to affect and determine what brings you joy.
Well, shit. It really is that simple.